Afternoon to UK column viewers and listeners. Today is a special day because I'm doing a special edition of Gutsy Women. Today, I'm delighted to have a lady called Natasha McCallum with me. And Natasha has done something really quite amazing and quite special. And that is that she's taken a visit to Fornethy House in Scotland, and she has done what was basically an urban exploring exercise with some friends. And this has led to a really incredible video, which is now available online. And we will also make that video available to UK column viewers. But of course, what it shows for the first time is what Fornethy House was like, where these very young girls were sent to in Scotland. So, Natasha, welcome to UK Column, and thank you very much for having the courage to come and join me on Gutsy Women.
You're very welcome.
Okay, well, this morning we had a little bit of a chat, and I ended up by saying to you, let's meet up again and let's talk through for our audience some of the things that you were talking about. So, good place to start is the beginning, isn't it? So, you for quite a long time, I think, have been getting out and about to explore um, derelict properties and buildings. Tell us how you got started with that, and then we'll move on to how you found Fornethy House.
Yeah, of course. Just really started since I was really young, If you ever seen an abandoned building, you would just spark some interest of what it is or what's inside. Since I was a kid, really, I've always had that. And I think there was a local abandoned building when I'd moved here. We checked it out. We also did some ghost hunting with some people as well, and yeah, just visiting all these places. I just realised that that's what I really enjoy. That was probably around about 4 years ago now, and then I passed my driving test, and that was it for me really. And started off the Scotland's Abandoned Places group on Facebook. Me and my friend started that up. Um, and we were exploring all these places, and it seemed to spark a lot of interest. The groups seemed to did quite well, and ever since it's just overtook my life, and that's just what I do for a hobby. So yeah, just every weekend we're out exploring, trying to find different things, just trying to find the history of it, get photographs, bring it back to light because half of these places will be forgotten as well. So yeah, that's just about it. Really, just bringing all these places back.
Right. So,
Just new
what
people. Yeah.
what was the first place that you went to visit?
The first ever place was probably what was it called? It was a big mansion based in Cumnock. Sorry, I'm not the fully the name of the mansion. It was a big mansion based in Cumnock, and we explored that, and that was the first place we ever explored. And we did my friends did some of the ghost hunting in there as well, so that seemed to draw a lot of attention. And yeah, and that's one of the first places really.
Right.
And then since then we just went everywhere else.
Well, that says a lot, doesn't it? Because
Yeah.
I've watched some of the videos online about urban explorers, and they're
Mhm.
going into some of them are quite creepy buildings. By the time
Yeah.
they've got a little bit derelict, that can be, I think, that can be pretty testing. But
Yes, that's right, for
you've got the
sure.
cour you've got the courage to do it. So
Mm.
jump forward then. What made you want to go and have a look at Fornethy House?
So some of the history on these places seem to, I don't know what it is. I've never really been able to explain it, but sometimes if there's a certain history about a building, it will make you want to go in and photograph it and document it. And, just the curiosity part of you want to go in, the explorer side, oh, what's this in here? Almost like, don't know, you just never know you're going to find something. Anyway, so Fornethy House has been a topic in the exploring world for some years now. And it was always a place that we heard, there's no possible entry. It's full of alarms, housekeeper, whatever. And luckily, we just patience is key, I suppose. We heard that a couple of other explorers had been in the building. We'd seen it posted online, and me and my friends just seemed to have thought it's a great opportunity. We risked the almost 6 hour drive. We went up there, and luckily the building was still open, and that's when we explored it. So yeah, it's just been a topic, as you know, in Scotland, of being one of the most horrific places anyway. So I don't know why, but part of that sparks interest in me to then want to go and be like, wow, what is this place, and just document it, take my photographs. At the end of the day, it's still history, and then you show it to the public. And yeah, a lot of people haven't seen inside these places for many, many years.
Yeah.
So
But you,
yeah, just really the history of it as well.
yeah. But you, this morning you said to me that actually you didn't know an awful lot about
No, I
what had
never. I just
happened at
knew the
Fornethy.
bare minimum. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. So this was one of the places that you went to. You'd heard some things, but you didn't know
Yes,
a
but
great deal.
not. No, we never knew the full extent of it at all. We knew, there was a bit of the bad history, as in, like, the abuse in the women, like the most horrific abuse you can imagine. But I had no idea about the sheer depth of the history. So yeah, I just went in there clearly half and half. Like, I just had no idea. So yeah, I can't really explain it. So we
Right.
just knew
Okay.
part of it, yeah, and then it was until afterwards then we found out the full extent of it.
Yeah. So
So
just describe it a bit. It's off the
mhm.
beaten track. You go down a track. It's quite
Yeah,
heavily wooded. Just
yeah.
describe, just describe, in your own words, what it was like approaching and getting into the building.
Oh, yeah. So we parked the car up. We passed the big gate. We're walking up the road, what looks like an old driven road. It's all overgrown now. You can tell cars haven't been up that road for a long time. Just walking up that road alone, with the surrounding trees, it just gives you a very, very secluded feel. It's very remote. It's just, I can't explain it. It's just really sad, and like, I don't know how to explain it. It's
It's
just a
fine.
really sad feel to it,
Yeah.
more than anything. Just because we knew a little bit about it, not 100%. It was just that sad feeling. And the first words I did say, as you can hear in the video, was like, where would these girls even run to? Because even just driving there alone, you realise how secluded it is and how out middle of nowhere. So that was just the part of it. It was just sadness. I can't
Yeah.
explain it. Just sheer sadness, knowing that those girls had nowhere to run. That was the first part of the feeling walking up that road. And then as you approached the building was just very run down looking, quite an eerie feel to it. So what we did was, we call it scoping out the building. That's where you walk around, seeing if there's any entry points. We had a wee nose at the cars. Those were strange. Like, why they would be sat there, I don't know, after all these years. We walked round the building. Round the back, there was like a fire exit door, but we noticed that all the boards had been ripped off. So me and my friends just utterly froze and just couldn't believe that there was a way in and that we could see this. So yeah, and then we just went on in, very high in adrenaline, and just couldn't believe it. Very sneakily, because you don't know who's in these places as well in front of you. So yeah, and we just went in, and I started recording as well. And I was just absolutely shocked to what I had seen, really, and what I
Yeah.
had felt in there.
And the house itself, most people and the photographs that we've used are of a sort of stone built Scottish, like a mini castle in some ways. That was how
That's
the
right.
original house was built. But what I realized from your video was that the that I realized that Fornethy House was actually much more than that. It had a lot built onto it, built onto the side of it.
Yes. It's like a maze. It is like a maze in there. All the rooms look the same. Everything looks the same. The corridors look the same. And that's why we got lost, as you'd seen in the video. We're like, where have we been? You know, everything just looks the same in there. So you can imagine how horrifying it was for the girls to be in there, because it is pretty much, it feels like a maze. Um, the corridors are very narrow, and even the decor as well in there, like, although there's a lot of decay and everything now, and all the papers and stuff, like all the mold and everything started to take over the actual building, the walls just seemed very blank. Like there's nothing, there's no happiness, there's no joy. It's just very dull. It's not a
Yeah.
happy place at all.
Yeah, we saw,
Yeah.
well, from your video, we could see that there were some murals on the walls. There were some things
Yes.
that had been, but there was one which was like, if I remember correctly, it was little trees, as though little fir trees had been drawn on the wall, and
And the
some of the
walkway.
pardon.
Sorry to interrupt. So the walk you could see on the wall, it showed you the trees with the little walkway, which looks like a path.
Yes, yeah,
Yes, so we think that's actually to do with, you know, a lot of the ladies describe how there was a big walk that they had to do.
okay,
Some of them
yes,
would be complaining that it was a very long walk and they were uncomfortable, etc. Well, we reckon that that could be the walk that they've drawn in that wall. I could be wrong, but there's
yes,
nothing else on the walls. It's
yeah.
just blank.
Yeah,
It's
and then there, I noticed that on some of the blinds there were some sort of more children's
yes.
style drawings or
So
decoration or something.
yeah, so that's when the most disturbing feel came across. So as we were exploring, we came across a room in particular, which was just almost like a big white page. And I'm talking about from floor to ceiling. And then if the cage has been tied shut with almost looks like a piece of wire. And then if you look through the cage gaps, you can see the blinds on the window,
Yeah,
and it actually has children's pattern on the blinds. Um, could be nothing, but
yeah,
a couple of the girls had called it the drying room, meaning was it for laundry? But then I'm
yeah.
thinking, with what I'd seen with my own eyes and with what I'd felt in there, was this feels more than just a laundry room. Why would a laundry room need such a big cage like that? Why would you need to lock away laundry? Why
Well,
would a laundry room like that have children pattern on the blinds? It just doesn't sit right with me.
when I saw that, I'm going to say to you, I have seen rooms like that before in military property back in my service days, and they were drying rooms. And one of the clues to this is that there was metal cages over the radiators
Yes.
themselves. And the reason for this is for the drying room, you have the radiator as hot as possible, so therefore people could get
Yeah.
hurt if they came up against it. And the cages are there because um, it stops anybody going in and picking clothes or taking other people's clothes. So when I saw that, I immediately thought that's a drying room. But
Right.
I have to say at the same time, I got an uncomfortable feeling that that you had the children's thing on the blind in there, and it was
Why it's just a bit weird, isn't it?
yeah,
And I think another lady had said that she was locked in somewhere in the building. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what she'd said because I've always had lots of ladies come forward to me. She did say she was locked in somewhere in the building, and it's like, well, if they lock you in there, what's to say that they don't lock you in there? I'm not assuming. It's just what we saw, what we felt, and then the blind. Like the blind is just it could mean nothing because at the end of the
yeah,
day, it is a children's school. But why would that be in the drying room? Who knows? Was there girls locked in there? I guess we'll never ever know.
yeah.
It
And
could be innocent, but yeah,
yes, and so you've described it like a maze, and that's how it seemed to me
very
because you've
much
got these
so.
corridors and some parts of it, look the same. And on that ground floor, um, if my memory's right, that's where you could walk into the kitchen area that had got the ferns and things growing in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but it was strange because although it looked, we thought it was a kitchen area going by all the sinks, but I don't know if you remember when I walked through the door, it was like the medical sign on the door
Yes. Yes.
that leads into that room. So I noticed on the bottom floor, all the corridors are almost like a square, but a
Right.
lot of the rooms all lead into that one. They all lead into that kitchen, whatever area that it is. So yeah, it was very strange, but it was weird to see a medical sign on the door, although it looked like a kitchen.
Yeah. And
Like, why would the medical room be as large as that? I don't know.
yeah, it was strange. And were there a lot of locked doors on the bottom corridors that you went
Yes.
around?
Yes. So on, as you see me in the video, there was two doors locked. There was a lot of doors we didn't try as well due to the time and everything. We always had adrenaline. We weren't thinking clearly, so I wasn't able to try a lot of the doors. But at least two doors were key locked. 100%. Yes, two doors that I tried were 100% key locked.
Yeah. And and again, do I remember correctly that there was some form of gym area on the ground floor?
Yes, so that was very, very barricaded closed. Like no one could get in there unless they forced entry. There's like big wooden parts on the door, and then also there was even a big block of wood that they've even put against the wall in the door so no one can go in there. And I was like, well, that's a bit bizarre for just that one room in particular. So I found out from some of the ladies that that was actually the shower area.
Oh, really? Right.
Yes, which I think because that I heard that the fire exit, which was access to that room, was open for a while, and I think people were able to get into the shower area. I have seen some photos of that from people, so I don't know if maybe they've thought, oh, well, this is a way, and then they've barricaded that door to stop them getting into the rest of the building. But it's definitely, I think it's the shower area, as a lot of the ladies described in there.
Yeah. And Natasha, I just reinforce it that when you went into the building, you really didn't know much about it, but
No, we
the
never.
the the feedback that you've had since you've been in has meant we'll come on to that. We'll save that for the end, but that's meant that
Yes.
you've learned a lot about Fornethy very quickly.
Very much so. I just, when I first spoke to you, I was speechless. Like, I still am. I'm struggling for words. Yes, I've found out a hell of a lot. I had no idea that this was as big as it is. I'm just an explorer going into abandoned buildings. What do I know?
Yeah,
But it's true though. So yes, I've learned so much
yeah.
since doing this. So yeah, a lot of ladies have came forward as well, like sharing their stories with me. So I do appreciate that as well.
When I've lost track of my nights now, night before last, I think is right, that I was talking to some of the Fornethy women, and they had, of course, had seen your video. And I said to them, does the video bring back memories? And instantly they said, oh, yes. And what was really interesting is that it brought back different memories for each of them, but it also brought back key things that they all seem to remember. And one of the
Mhm.
features of the house that the group that I was talking to remembered very much was the spiral staircase that you eventually came
Yes.
across. And so tell us about that. You've done the tour of the ground floor area. You hadn't been able to get into all of the rooms, but then you come to the staircase.
Yes, we went up the stairs and a lot of the rooms were open up there. But that's where the alarm must have been triggered because you see me creeping at the top of the stairs, the alarms got triggered. But a lot of those rooms were open. But a lot of the floors are all starting to crumble now. Um, so yeah, most of them were empty up there, and a lot of the floors are just very, very unsafe. I don't really remember much about up the stairs because I'm still trying to remember all as well, and I'm trying to remember where. parts of my video was and what was upstairs and what was not, if that makes sense. But I remember if I think the office area was up the stair, was it? I think it was the main
Yes.
office area where I'd found the letters and stuff, where
Yes.
the main looks like the main staff probably were kept, I think. And that's when I came across the big fireplaces and whatnot in most of these rooms, and I think they'd said that that's where a lot of the staff were at that
Right.
time.
And though those rooms that you went into that have got the big fireplaces, most of those were wooden paneled, and I thought, oh,
Yes, they were. Yes.
these must have been the original rooms in the very old part of the house when the two sisters were there. So those to me looked absolutely original, and also I think they had quite expensive floors because they were parquet wood floors with a pattern on them. You might not have noticed it, but watching, you can see that under the dust, there's a floor which in its day I think would have been really, really expensive. I guess that was the old part of Fornethy House for those rooms.
Yep, you could
And
tell that they were very fancy back in the day, especially with the wooden. It reminds you of being in court or something, like
yes,
that kind of look, or like Parliament or something. It's like the wooden walls and stuff. So yeah, but no, that's pretty much what I could describe from that anyway. It's a shame because it's decayed a lot, so a lot of the features and a lot of the looks of the building will be kind of gone now. But it's nice to be able to still see some parts of that in the video.
yeah. And perhaps we should just highlight for viewers and listeners here that, of course, when you go into buildings like this, you have got to be careful of the
Yeah.
structure of the building, because if floors are unsafe, you could hurt yourself. So I'm just going to say that in case we have people who are thinking, I'd like to go and do that. But you have got to be aware of the fact the building's in a state of decay. So staircases or floors could actually be a danger.
Yes, because I'd went up the concrete stairs onto, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was the top floor, and I could hear the floor underneath me almost falling through. I could hear it breaking beneath my feet. And that's at the part of the video where I don't even show in the rooms. I'm just like whizzing around, looking almost as if I'm looking for something. I'm thinking, I don't even know what I'm looking for here. Um, and yeah, the floors were literally going beneath my feet. And I had to say, yeah, guys, this is too dodgy up here. I can't investigate up here anymore because it's too dodgy. So
Yeah.
yeah, I had to just come down. It was just so dangerous.
Yeah.
And
So
a lot of the floors have like wood on them, so you can't actually see the floor underneath, if that makes sense. So you
yes,
can't actually see the true damage.
yeah. So Natasha, you while you were upstairs, you went in this particular room where you discovered some paperwork. Tell
Yes.
us a little bit about what you actually found.
Yeah, so we went to the big room, and I'm very known for digging in to like hay almost to find a needle, as they call it. I'm always into my little trinkets and little things. So the first thing I did was go in the cupboard and like, oh, what's in there? Because I did see some paperwork. Because normally I like to take pictures of like old books and things, like, anything like that. And I just came across things like, the thing that shocked me was the piece of paper that said Fornethy, and it would describe what Fornethy is, what you'll be doing on your stay here, what you should bring with you on your stay. And that absolutely broke my heart because half of these girls obviously didn't know,
Yes.
what they were going to go through. So they were obviously given that piece of paper before they arrived. That made me really, really sad.
Yeah, and I can tell you that talking to the ladies, they recognized that paper. One of them actually said, I remember that paper arriving. I'm sure she said, I remember that paper arriving at home.
No.
And that was key. That was a sort of key initial letter that obviously the families got when one of the girls or the girls were going to go to Fornethy. And of course it was describing it as an education establishment.
Yep. I thought that was probably my biggest find in there was that little piece of paper.
Yeah,
Just because, just with what you've heard, and it just breaks my heart because it looks like a little piece of paper of joy when in fact it's not.
yeah, that's absolutely true. And then there were some other documents there. I think one
Yes.
was a book about absence by staff.
Yes. Non-teaching staff absence book.
Right.
Didn't see anything in it. It seems pretty much blank.
Yeah.
Um, Also found an old boiler room, documents from the old boiler room.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the pieces of paper were just like parts of papers, but I couldn't really understand what they were. Couldn't really make out like what they read, but there was a lot of envelopes, like old envelopes as well in there. Um, to me, it just looked like old paperwork.
Yeah. And so
So
because of the number of locked doors, it's quite possible that there may still be quite a lot of other significant
I
paperwork and
feel,
documents.
I feel there's more there. I just yeah, I just do feel there's something there somewhere, and I don't know where, but I believe there probably is.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So you had a good look around downstairs and you went upstairs and then you came back down again. And then eventually you're outside a little bit more, and there were some more pictures of these abandoned cars in the outbuilding.
Yeah,
And I said to you this morning, I find this quite strange that, I mean, for most people, a car is quite a significant purchase, isn't it? You save money to buy a car and you spend quite a lot on a car. So why would the staff at Fornethy College be leaving cars just to slowly rot
I
um,
know.
when the place was closed down? Why were all the cars left? I find this really strange.
I know that's what we think as well. It's just really strange because one of them even have like a big cover over it to protect it as well. One of the cars has a cover over it, as if it's there to protect it.
Yes.
Um, yeah, the cars just seemed a bit strange to me because I'm like, why would they still be there? And
Yeah.
as you say, cars, you would imagine they'd maybe sell them on or something. It's just a bit bizarre why they are there.
Yeah.
Just a
And
waste.
yeah, and the other very poignant thing outside was that you had the sort of overgrown play areas where there was swings,
Mm.
and I found that very. I found the video emotional. I've spoken to the women. I know a reasonable amount about what went on. I don't know everything that went on, but it was all pretty dark and nasty, especially for very young girls. And then you
Yes,
then you see the climbing frame and the swings all rusted and abandoned and overgrown. And
yes.
it's got a very emotional feel about it.
It broke my heart. And as you see me walk up to the swings again, you hear me say how sad. It just absolutely broke my heart to know that all those girls played there, and the memories and everything that they would have had there. And the play park seemed to have really, really got to my heart. I think that was the most sad, the most heartbreaking part. Like including the kids, like from just the fact that that was meant to be their play area.
Yeah,
And just knowing what some of them had went through, it just yeah, it made me just really, really, really sad. Documenting the swings in the play park, just that part alone, I
yeah,
found that to be the most emotional part.
yeah.
Yep.
So when you were upstairs, just you're back in the
It's
house, but
okay.
you're upstairs and an alarm went off, didn't it? And that obviously made you all think, and you eventually came downstairs and outside. But the net result of that alarm going off was the police turned up. Tell us
Yes.
about what happened.
So the alarm went off, but I was staying put. I wasn't for going anywhere. Anyway, I just felt like I need to capture more and more and more. As you hear me saying to my friends, it's the only opportunity anybody's ever going to have to be in here, so let's just document it. Anyway, and I knew that because we didn't break in, we haven't thieved or stole anything. I knew that if the police rocked up here anyway, that we're going to be okay. So just with our Bex, you come encounter with the police sometimes, and you do get familiar with the laws and stuff. So yeah, once we finally left the place, we did leave. We went to go to the car at the bottom of the road. We were approached by two police officers. They were just kind of asking us what we were doing in there. Just kind of tell them what you do, my hobby, photographs, about the building. And then the kind of police officer just kind of joking, laughing, was like, "Oh, well, bad news for you guys because the housekeeper has deflated your tires." And we're like, "Oh, great." The police were fantastic. They actually helped us blow the tires up and everything. We showed them my Urbex page, Exploring with Natasha, show them what I do, my explanation of why I was in there. And yeah, and they were just pretty much happy really. The police, what they do is they'll go back to the building to see, any evidence of like if you've broken or if you've stolen anything, and if they really want to, they can search. That's to make sure you don't have any tools or anything on you breaking in, or if you've stolen anything. But yeah, they never did any of that though. They were pretty lovely, lovely police officers, and they were actually quite interested in the history by themselves. So they were. So yeah, we were fine and we were let go, and we got our dust caps back for the tires. They
Right.
blew up our tires, and off we went.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really brilliant. I still see this video in my head. That's the effect that it's made on me. And several times I was thinking to myself, my goodness, this is a creepy place. I mean,
very,
how
very.
any form of security person could I know that you've told me you don't think the security man is there full time,
No.
but uh, from previous information I've had, I've heard that at one stage at least somebody was living on site, and I'm thinking, my goodness, what a creepy experience.
Where? Where?
Well, I know it's pretty dilapidated, isn't it? But to be around that building at night would be unbelievably creepy,
There
I think.
wasn't even a bed in there unless he was sleeping
No.
in a secret part of the building that we don't know about.
Well, there was the big couches, I suppose, but and
Yeah.
the other thing is, I'm puzzled as to what's happening with the building because at one stage people were told that a gentleman had bought it who was going to attempt some form of renovation. And I know
Right.
in one of the rooms that you went in, there was quite a lot of wood, lengths of wood on the floor, as if
Yes.
something
So it
was,
looks like they've been stripping it out,
yeah,
putting things in piles almost. I don't know what they're doing, but normally you go into a building and you can tell that if somebody has been trying to do something. But as you
yeah,
said, there was pieces of wood piled up and things. So it looks like somebody has tried to do something at one point. But
yeah.
another thing I noticed was the fireplace. I know this is complete off topic of what you just mentioned before we forget. Was the paperwork also that was on top of the fireplace as well? And then I don't know if you noticed when I'd filmed the fireplace, it looks like a lot of papers were burned in there. Don't know if
Um,
you noticed the fireplace, it looks like a lot of old papers have been burned. You can actually see some old newspapers that have actually turned brown. I believe they're that old. So I just thought
right.
I'd put that bit of information in there. I don't know if that's any interest to you, but yeah, we
Yeah.
noticed there was a lot of papers being burned in the fire.
I'll have a look at that again in the video.
Yes, yeah.
Just before we move on from the building, the other thing which I thought was, yeah, it was a poignant thing. In one of the rooms, there were two big black and white photographs on the wall, and um,
Oh,
that
oh yeah.
was a picture of one, maybe there was two photographs of the same lady, but I think they were originally sisters, of the
Yes.
original sisters that lived in that house. And
Wow. Yeah, we
and
wondered who they were. I didn't know who they were.
well, I can't tell you now because I can't remember which of the which sister it was, but or which lady it was, but I know that the Fornethy women recognized that really quickly and said, "Oh, that's one of the original women who lived in the house."
hmm
So yeah, that was another interesting thing. So you did your urban exploring of the building and you processed your video and got it up, and then things
Yeah.
started to happen.
Well, yeah, what happened was we left the building after we left the police, whatever. We started to drive home. My friend was driving. So while she was driving, I was saying to her that I wondered what the full extent of this building was, especially with the cell. Well, what we thought was a cell, it may not be. It just seemed a bit bizarre. So I started doing my proper research. Part of me didn't want to know the full history of the building, due to being a kind of abuse survivor myself. So I wasn't really, I didn't think I was going to be mentally able to deal with hearing about the full on history of this building, and that's why I didn't do research. So in the car, that's when I was doing my research, and my friend turned around to me and she says, "Natasha, you will not sleep at night, and if you keep reading that." And I says, "I know," and that's when I was absolutely horrified. And that's when I'd seen the ladies' script, their, online and what they were. I could not believe it. When I got to my own car, all I did on my way home was I just cried and I just sobbed. I just could not believe that we had just got in there, and then finding out the true extent of what these ladies went through, I just cried. Even the morning after, I hadn't really processed it and I just cried. But then as I woke up, my phone. Oh, what it was, I'd posted the post of the building. I never posted the video just yet. It was the building. Um, so I posted just the photographs, and that's when the next morning I'd woke up and all these ladies, survivors, had been messaging me and thanking me, and couldn't believe that I had been in there. And hearing their stories. Yes, I cried more, but at the end of the
Yeah,
day, it then turned into a positivity. I then realised, well, me being in here, yeah, it might have mentally disturbed me a bit, but just the positivity now of helping these women, and that's all I'm focused on now. It's just I can't believe that we got in there and we've actually helped a lot of women, a lot more than we know.
yeah,
So that's just the story of that. And a lot of them were really wanting this video, so I had sat all day and uploaded it all, and I made that video for those ladies, and that's when I put that video up.
yeah. And
Then that's when it got sent to you, of
Natasha,
course.
you did a fantastic job. My
Yeah,
impression, okay,
it's
it was
crazy.
only a few of the Fornethy ladies watching it, but my impression was that it brought to light things which it brought to light things which they've all tried to sort of seal off, and
Hmm.
very nasty memories and things you don't want to remember, you don't want to think about. But the
Yes.
fact that you brought it to the surface, I think has meant that at least some of them have now got to a new place in dealing with what happened to them. Because
Another lady told me that she was actually able to sleep that night after
right,
seeing that
right,
video.
right.
She was actually able to get the first night's sleep in a long time.
Yeah, that's very
That's
interesting.
absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
It's absolutely
that's pretty
amazing.
incredible.
Yes.
And the other thing that's happened is that suddenly there seems to be a resurgence of interest by by the media up in Scotland.
All
And
right.
I'm hearing that well, I think the TV and some newspapers are now getting interested again in the Fornethy story and what's actually happening. So that'll be quite interesting to see how that goes. I think the key thing is that your video has absolutely brought this thing to light for members of the public, because it's one thing that you hear a narrative from adults, and they're adults talking about what happened to them when they were little girls,
Hmm.
but this is also difficult for the average member of the public to really understand. A lot of people in the public find it really difficult to believe that the abuse actually goes on.
Hmm.
But when you see the building, and then your mind says, "Yeah, this is the building that those little girls were in." I think you said 6 miles to the nearest village,
It
Um,
was, I feel like it was all premeditated just because of the location on its
yeah,
own.
yeah. And I can imagine at night it would be deathly quiet there. It would be particularly spooky. You look out the window and you're surrounded by trees, maybe not as many as there are close to it today, but even so.
It
So
is in
this,
the most thickest, dense forest. It's the most, it's like the most north of Scotland. It's like in the Highlands. It's like the worst terrain that you could get in Scotland. No one can run from there. It's,
yeah,
it's no man's land. I can't explain it.
yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm
yeah.
so
But
speechless sometimes trying to get words out because I'm still going through it all in my mind as well, and it's hard to describe how it really, really is out there.
yeah,
Just the ruralness as well. It's very, very, very unsettling, and
yeah,
even during the day, it's very, very freaky and scary and very unsettling. Never mind for
yeah.
little children. So
Yeah, but
yes, very much
all of
so.
these emotions, Natasha, are things that the
Mm.
video brings to a head, and I think it will absolutely help members of the public understand just how bad things were for these very little girls who were isolated in this place. So your video, I think, is going to make a huge difference, not only to the Fornethy survivors themselves, but I think it's going to make a huge difference to particularly the political circles, because there's been a lot of support by members of the Scottish Parliament for the Fornethy ladies, and the last big committee meeting they had was unanimous in saying to the Scottish government has got to deal with Fornethy and give the Fornethy survivors proper recognition and redress.
Yes,
And I think now that members of the Scottish Parliament and the public can actually see what the building was like and get a feel for it, I think that your video is going to make a huge difference in helping to bring the whole thing to yeah, some positive closure.
that's amazing. It's actually truly amazing. Although I don't know how it accidentally happened like that, but it has.
Maybe it
I'm
was meant
still
to
shook.
happen.
I'm still shook, and it's been what, how many days, and I am
Yeah, maybe
speechless.
it was meant to happen, Natasha.
It was, and all the ladies that have came forward thanking me, all the comments, the messages, even some of them want to meet me personally. I can't. I just,
Yeah,
yes, I am just so overjoyed for these women, and I just hope that they get some sort of justice and the answers they're looking for. Because I believe that the video have helped these ladies in many, many ways, whether it's bringing back a memory, whether it's just confirming something, or, you know, it helps them in so many ways.
yeah,
So it just makes me very, very, very happy. And I'm glad that it's a huge positivity that's been brought out of this. So
yeah. No,
me that's
that's
just
great.
exploring with Natasha, it seemed to have done a really good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
and
lost for words, really.
Natasha, we should also give some recognition for the other two people who went into the building
Yes,
with you. So
yes, of course. I was going to say that my friend Adam and Vicky, they were alongside of me. They weren't sure, as you could tell, they were kind of looking up to me, bless
yes,
them. One of them's just new to our Bexing, so she is. Um, so yeah, they put all trust in me, shall I say, and bless them, and they're partly a huge part of this as much as I am. So
yeah, great. Okay.
yeah,
Well, Natasha, you've taken us through the story of how you got into that building. You very kindly said to us that we can use your video footage.
yes,
So I'll say now that we're going to move on and let the UK column audience see your video and they can experience Fornethy House for themselves. Um, before we bring that video up, I want to say to you, you're absolutely a gutsy woman, because I can imagine that there's a lot of people, men and women, who would not have wanted to go near that building for the sheer look of it and the feel of it inside.
I know
And
people that have
and
ran, just went in there and they've ran away.
yeah,
So
And you were ahead of the crowd, or you were all separated at various points. And I thought, my goodness, you go round a corner into a new corridor. That's quite a spooky experience. So you definitely get the label of a very gutsy woman. So I'm going to
Yes,
thank you for being
thank you
brave.
so much. You're very welcome.
All right. Before we finally end, Natasha, would you like to tell the audience how they can find your own website to see a little bit more about what you've been doing with urban exploring? Where should they go?
It's Exploring with Natasha. You can find me on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube as well. So that's the three platforms that I'm on. If you want, you can go on there and have a look at all the places that we have visited so far. So
Yeah.
yeah, Exploring with Natasha.
Okay. All right. That's really excellent. Thank you.
Yes. I don't know who else is going to contact me. It's so weird. Like I don't know. I'm just constantly waiting on this phone going because I'm
Well,
thinking this is probably just the start.
I'll say to you that if you get contacted by any of the bigger newspapers or whatever, you've just had a really good practice run at talking about what you did.
I was just in the newspaper the last week and in my local newspaper. I'm always in the papers for my finds all the time. So I
Yeah.
am,
Yeah.
yeah, for good reason. Oh, Exploring Natasha discovered this, Natasha discovered that. But do you want to know what my name is now? Discover and Uncover. Because I've just went into that building and discovered it and then uncovered it. So I'm
Yeah.
so happy. But I'm always in the papers all the time for things that I do. So I went into the big rubber factory in Dumfries and seemed to have sparked a lot of interest for the locals. Yeah, I made the Dumfries Courier and the Dumfries and Galloway, what's going on. I've been in the Daily Record. I've been in uh, all of them. I've been in all of the papers for all different things since I've been doing this.
Yeah.
So
Brilliant. Well,
just
you've
found
you've
my cool finds. So
you've obviously found your calling.
I says to my mum, I says, it's funny, I says, I always knew in my heart that I would find something amazing that's going to shake the nation or, but I didn't mean to manifest this. I did not mean to do this at all.
Yeah.
I just did this purely by accident. So that's why I'm just sat here still speechless. I don't even know what to say. But my worry was as well that because my mum was like, "You've innocently just went on in there," and I'm thinking, "I know, mum, it's crazy," and I'm saying, "But I hope people don't, you get the other side of it where people can start to be negative about it and can accuse you of things." And I was kind of quite wary about that because I get it all the time, but nah, so far it's been okay.
Yeah. Well,
So
you don't take any notice of people who are
no,
negative. You're doing great
I'm
work, and you
probably
just
one of the worst. I'm probably one of the most hated urbexers in Scotland, probably because of how well that I do. I get a lot of hate
yeah.
and a lot of jealousy, especially from a lot of the urbexers, believe it or not, other urbexers. So, but no, I'm just so glad that it's so positive. I just can't believe it. And with
Yeah.
being a survivor myself, um, through kind of similar kinds of abuse as well, I always wanted to do something for people that went through abuse. I'm thinking a
Yeah.
little voice like mine's not going to do anything, but little did I know that I would have went in here and helped possibly thousands of survivors of abuse. So I think it's just a bit bizarre. It's just
You've made
sad.
a difference, and I think the key to solving the abuse, the issue of abuse, is it needs a
Yeah,
lot of people to do a little bit.
it just means so
Yeah.
much to me. I just can't get over it. So thank you so much anyway, and for having me. And
No, it's been great.
oh,
Thank you
yeah.
very much for joining us.